Hello, I'm Joel Baird, the General Manager of Missoula Community Access Television. Thanks for watching this edition of What's Up Missoula. This program focuses on civic groups, governmental organizations that are doing work in Missoula that may be of interest to you. Today we're going to visit with Philip Maechling. He is with the Historic Preservation Commission for the City of Missoula. Philip, thanks for coming over.
Thanks for having me.
You're most welcome. Well, our topic today is about the 16th Annual Missoula Historic Preservation Awards. And I've got the list of nominations, but do you want to speak maybe to the award history and maybe a little bit about what might qualify a building or people behind this building to receive one of these awards?
Well, as you said, it's the 16th Historic Preservation Awards, and they were begun in 1989 with, I believe, one preservation award. Since then, it's grown to an annual event where over 100 people attend, and people get up and tell the stories of their restoration projects or their involvement in some kind of historic preservation effort. And it's an interesting and a fun kind of a thing to do. The projects, in terms of nominations for the awards, have to have been completed within the last year, right, by December 31st. And nominations are in a number of categories, and I'll just take a quick run through.
And I'll even hold them up for people, and they'll probably see an edited, better version of these. But go ahead, and I want to ask you about the Painted Lady. Commercial
and residential restoration. Those are for commercial buildings and residential buildings that have actually been restored back to their original construction period and with the original design. And quite often they're done with the original materials, and quite often they're painted up. New construction and new additions in historic neighborhoods, and I'll go to the map for just a minute.
You might be able to indicate that.
We have 8 residential historic districts in Missoula. The north side, or 8 historic districts: the North Side Railroad District, the Lower Rattlesnake District, including Greeno Park, the University Area Historic District, and the Missoula South Side Historic District, and the most recent one, the McCormick neighborhood. These are all residential historic districts. Then the East Pine Street Historic District is a residential district with some commercial activity. The University of Montana campus, recently in the newspapers, is an historic district including Mount Sentinel and, of course, the core landscape area. And then Fort Missoula is also a National Historic District. And so that rounds out the selection. We're currently doing a survey of the Missoula downtown to kind of fill in the center of this historic Missoula core. And we hope to have that project completed this year with registry on the National Register of Historic Places probably next year. So that's going on right now. And in these historic districts, quite often new construction happens. Right. Sometimes buildings have simply got to a point where they have to be raised, or in some cases it's simply not economical to continue to operate a small building when a larger building really makes more sense. And so there's an award for new construction, which would be new architecture that is compatible in scale and form to the historic district tradition.
And that's the historic part of new construction.
Right.
In case people are asking how they could get an historic award for new construction.
Right, and sometimes the buildings are really modern buildings, but they fit the scale and the massing of the neighborhood, and so that's why they're eligible for an award. There also is an award for maintenance and repair, and that's often buildings get old and need to be repaired and maintained. And some people do really noteworthy, jobs in that case. The Painted Lady Award is a favorite of lots of people. Yeah. And you'll see some very colorful Victorian houses around town. And some of those are nominated for the Painted Lady Award. And it's a tradition around the country, actually. San Francisco probably has the most famous collection of Painted Lady buildings, but it's late Victorian, kind of ornamental, brightly colored paint jobs for the painted ladies. Adaptive reuse is a category where an historic building or a building in a historic neighborhood is adapted to new uses. The old uses simply economically don't work, but the adaptation is done in a way that retains the historic character of the building, and again retains the sort of the structure around the building, the landscape that makes the context itself historic. Site and landscape preservation is another category where the actual physical surroundings of a building are maintained, and in some cases even restored. And 2 years ago actually, an award was given for a new stone wall up the Rattlesnake, right along Rattlesnake Drive, that is not a restoration, but is a landscape statement about, clearing the stone from a farm field, and creating a stone wall as a separation of pastures and functions.
Yeah.
Preservation, Information, and Education is another award for people involved in preservation, helping people understand why preservation is both economically important to the community and culturally important. And so awards have been given in the past for people who've been actively engaged in that and really excellent at it. And then the last one is an award for individual contributions to historic preservation. And that's kind of a neat one. That's for people who have done outstanding sort of efforts in the work of preservation in Missoula and sometimes in Missoula County. And it's gone to Forest Service, volunteers who have rebuilt cabins. I believe an archaeologist working out at Travelers Rest won the individual award.
Oh, I see.
And so those are kind of individual,
Now, for some
merit.
of these, do the site-specific awards, do they have to come out of this historic area that you've detailed on the
No.
map, or could be anywhere within the city or anywhere within the county?
Anywhere within the city and anywhere within the county. That's
Okay.
correct. It's the Preservation Commission is established by the City Council, but the awards are for everybody. So awards have been given in Seeley Lake, out Mullen Road, down in Lolo, other parts of the county. Certainly the history in the county is an interesting and rather brief one, but it doesn't stop at the city limits.
Right. Well, maybe, do you want to address some of the past award winners?
Sure.
Might give people an idea of the things that they could nominate that they're aware of.
The Florence Hotel, I think, is a significant one in a number of ways. The Florence Hotel was built during World War II. It was completed in 1942, and it's the first hotel in the downtown to respond to the automobile. And it's also an example of Art Moderne construction, and the interior has been completely restored.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And its new building in here, for anyone who has been to the Florence over the past few years, you'll remember that where this railing is, there was recently a ceiling and cubicles out in that main space for offices, and in fact cubicles up above this false ceiling, which had a floor for offices in the upstairs space. So that's won an award for restoration and preservation, for a commercial building. So that's an interesting example. The Frida Picasso's building on South Higgins. This is an A.J. Gibson building, and
A.J. Gibson was
A.J.
a Missoula
Gibson
architect.
was a very well-known Missoula architect in the late 19th century and early 20th century, and probably Missoula's best-known historic architect. This, the Keim building, or the Stensrud building as it's known, on the north side, another commercial restoration project, completely restoring the woodworking and adapting it to new uses. So these are a number of the commercial efforts. This porch on Sherwood Street was an addition, recycling some columns and recycling building materials, original construction, adding this porch onto the building, but a great addition to the house and to the neighborhood.
I see the stone wall you'd
The
mentioned.
stone wall over here is up on Rattlesnake Drive, and it was hand-built with stones being removed from what is now an organic farm up the Rattlesnake. And next to that, we see the Hill and Homestead project, the Moon Randolph Homestead up in the North Hills, and that's a collaboration with North Missoula CDC and a bunch of individuals and with some public funding to take the original Moon cabin, completely take the building apart, put a foundation under it where there never was one, build a roof where the roof had fallen in, and then put the original siding, some of which came from railroad cars, onto this frame and create a new old building. And this is not an uncommon technique. Next to it is a classic painted lady on South 4th Street. This building, if you would see the before pictures, You almost wouldn't recognize it,
No,
even though the
I
shapes
know
are
the
the
house you
same.
wouldn't, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a fabulous.
It shows
fabulous
really
example.
the power of the paint to transform the facade of the
Yeah, the
building.
paint is a very interesting thing, and paint, of course, color outdoors is an interesting medium and a difficult one at the same time to work with. So those are just a few examples of some of the buildings, commercial, residential, and then public, that have been granted preservation awards this year.
Well, I want to remind
In the
people
past
too,
years.
if they do know of, now can people be self-nominated?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just
we take all nominations.
right.
Nominate yourself.
If you are interested in nominating yourself or perhaps someone you know or a building, and now do they have to do this with the owner's permission? Like let's say someone is walking by a structure, they're not sure, but they think that maybe it would be worthy of nomination.
If they can do it without the owner's permission, and then I'm happy to call the owner and tell them that they've been nominated.
Yeah, they'd be thrilled anyway.
And because we'll need some information to know about when the building was built, if they know that, who the
Right.
building was designed by, if they know that. There are facts that are really helpful to the story.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the great part about it is ultimately the awards event, when the owners who get awards come and tell us the strange things they found in the
Right.
walls, or
The
how
struggle to
hard
get
it was
them.
to figure out what colors to paint.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I wanted to tell people that they should get a form for the nomination, and that the deadline is coming up. They'll see this about a week beforehand, but the deadline is February the 22nd. They should call 258-4706 or stop by the front desk at the Office of Planning and Grants in City Hall at 435 Ryman to get a copy of the nomination form.
Great, yeah, or they can email me.
Oh, and let's I'll write that down so I'll put it on the screen, but what is
Okay,
your...
it's pmachli@co.missoula.mt.us.
Right, which is the main city mailing address.
Right.
Well, Philip, that's great. Oh, let's mention also the awards event. I guess you have a lot of time to investigate your nominees.
We do.
The deadline being February the 22nd. The award date is Friday, May the 20th at 7 p.m. Have you selected a site for...
We haven't yet. We've
Okay.
in the last few years we've done it at the Florence Hotel, and it's been just great
Yeah.
in the upstairs in the governor's room.
All right.
But
well,
we'll see. It'll be in the paper.
is there anything you want to add?
No, just to thank the public for supporting preservation, and you architects and builders out there who've done interesting restoration work, show off your stuff.
Great. Well, Philip, thanks for coming by today,
You
too. Once again, we've been visiting with Philip Maechling, who's the Historic Preservation Officer for the City of Missoula. The nominations are due February the 22nd. If you want more information, give a quick call to the office. The number there is 258-4706. If you know of an organization you'd like to see on this program, give us a call at MCAT. The number is 542-6228. For MCAT, I'm Joel Baird. Thanks for watching.